Hello, people. So today we'll be reacting to Alex O'Connor. Am I becoming a Christian? Now, for context, I have followed him about 10 years back, and I found him very interesting. I have been a big fan of him. I still arguably am somewhat a fan of him. I disagree with him fundamentally. I'm not an atheist. I believe that atheism is wrong. Um, Many things that he say I have a problem with it, and I have made a video just before this one disproving atheism in an argument that I've never heard before. So check it out and see what you think about it. But yeah, so for this video, let's just start and see what he got to say.
Right, can everybody just chill out a little bit, please? Alex O'Connor just admitted it. Christianity might actually be true. He debated Christians for years, then admitted this about Jesus. Did Alex O'Connor convert to Christianity? Alex O'Connor is no longer an atheist? Alex O'Connor, no longer an atheist. Here's why. Alex O'Connor, no longer an atheist. Here's why. Part 2. Alex O'Connor just admitted this about Christianity. Did Alex O'Connor did Alex O'Connor...
I just want to say, so most of these are sort of clickbaity. People do exaggerate stuff like that in order to get more views. I mean, look at their views. So these channels, like you see, have like 596 views, 126. These are clearly early channels trying to get some views. Alex, just let them be. They're trying to get views. How else would you capture the the viewer if you don't have an attractive title and like a thumbnail, right? So you wanna excite the viewer. So you would exaggerate. So the fact that he's featuring them here, I'm pretty sure that I mean, he's a very intelligent person. I would say that he probably knows that people do this because they're trying to get views. They kind of exaggerate things. But who knows? He might, sincerely not know this. I mean, he's been a YouTuber for such a long time. I have no idea how would he not know this, unless there's something that I'm not understanding about being a YouTuber. I don't know.
change his mind about Christianity? Are you ready to die, Cosmic Skeptic?
Are you
Okay,
ready,
that one actually sounds a bit like a threat, but
ready to
I'm sure it's
die?
driving at the same thing. Okay, so what happened? Something super significant must have gone down to cause all of this ruckus. Well, I'll tell you. I recently had a conversation with Bear Grylls in which he asked me where my study of Christianity and theology has led me, and I told him, wait for it, that I think Christianity is more plausibly true than the new atheists do and than I did when I was a teenager.
Well, this is clearly, I mean, I don't know where to start, but so him saying that means that he's going, it's by definition, you're going in a way more towards theism. You're not you're nobody's saying that you're a theist now. I mean, these clickbaity stuff are just for exaggeration for the sake of getting viewers. But yeah, no, it's clear. I don't think any sane person is looking at this, and I can actually look at how the comments do. So let's say, when I first found this channel, I found a mustache implausible. Now I find it more plausible. So most of his commentators and viewers, their brains are already way too fried by now. It could not be any more clear, and there is no room for any nuance or subtlety. Alex is a devout Eastern Orthodox priest. So, okay, so those people, they really, they're sort of siding with him, but yeah, I mean, he's clearly, going towards the path that, I mean, it is in the direction of theism, right? So to being a person who does believe in some sort of a theology, he's clearly heading towards that path. So to deny that or to minimize it, I don't find that sincere. I mean, yeah, you are not a person who believes in God. You're not a person who believes in some sort of a theology. You do not follow a theology, but that does not mean that it's nothing to think that these stuff are more plausible than you previously thought. This is something that is considerable.
Can you believe it?
But you've had such a journey and you've met so many amazing people and you've debated so many different angles and things.
Yeah.
Where's it led you to?
It's led me to, well, I used to be quite on board with the new atheism stuff. I've spoken about this a lot on my show.
What does that mean?
You know, like the sort of Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens.
So I have seen this before, so I just want to skip that part.
I was a teenager. And it was actually a clip of this moment, which went out on my second YouTube channel, that caused all of these responses. I mean, can you believe it? A non-believer in God, like me, is willing to attribute more plausibility to Christianity than someone like Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens.
Okay, he's just repeating the same point, so let's try to go
Or,
forward.
indeed, his own teenage self. Except that he's secretly on the verge of some kind of grand conversion. Christianity is cool again, and he wants to capitalize on an increased viewership by leaning into Christianity, thereby making a whole lot more money. Okay, so here's what really happened. If you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you'll know that I'm quite a staunch critic of Christianity and religion and theism in general. And when I was like 17 or 18 and I started making videos, I was a lot more forthright with that atheism. I thought that atheism wasn't just true, but beneficial for society. I thought that religion was harmful. I was really in line with the new atheists like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens, who influenced me greatly into a position that religion is just this utterly irrational and evil force in the world. In the past decade, I've come to see this as something of a shallow view. I think it depends on the religious tradition, because they're quite different. I think it depends on the time in history. I think it depends on the cultural context. And yeah, of course, any historian or sociologist will tell you that it's never as straightforward as I think the new atheists made it out to be. But also on the point of God's existence, I also think that the new atheists didn't really give enough credence to some of the arguments for the existence of God. Richard Dawkins, for example, in The God Delusion, spends 2 pages on Thomas Aquinas' famous 5 ways. 2 pages. And I think in a way that doesn't properly deal with the significance of the arguments that Aquinas was putting forward. Now look, I still don't believe in God. Okay? Like, I just don't think that it's...
I think there's nobody who is claiming that he is believing in God, but it's just that where he's going, like the direction where his beliefs are seemingly heading towards him leaving atheism. And I believe that he says something like that at some point as well.
It's true, but what I will say is that when I was 17 or 18 and I was swept up with this kind of material, I thought that all of the arguments for God's existence were complete nonsense, and that all the arguments against God's existence were an epitome of perfect rationality. I've now come to prefer the term agnostic over atheist. I mean...
Yep, it's right here. So he himself is right now saying, he is claiming that he's not an atheist. He himself said it. So all of these people are sort of at least half right, because they're saying that he's not an atheist anymore. Well, he's not an atheist anymore because he's an agnostic. That means that in his worldview, he is open-minded to the possibility that God exists, that to adopt a theology. So, if you keep trying to minimize that, then you're not being as sincere in my opinion. You're just being wishy-washy. You're beating around the bush. You're not being straight to the point. I don't know, maybe you're afraid of something. You're afraid of your fans. You're afraid of your persona or the ego. I'm not sure what's really going on in there. But what I do know that you're not an atheist anymore. You're just claiming that you're an agnostic. So you're not an atheist. And this is a big thing. I mean, maybe he does not see it that way, but he will look back to this video and he will laugh. I assure you of that. And he will become somebody who adopts a theology. I also can guarantee you that. It might take a few years, it might take more, but I guarantee you that this guy, I'm not sure if he will become a Christian, but he will become a person who follows some sort of a theology.
It's a problem in itself, even trying to define what God is and what God would look like. But I think there are good reasons to believe in God. I also think there are very good reasons to not believe in God. And some of you might be thinking, what, like good reasons to believe in God? What are you talking about? I don't mean like conclusive reasons. I don't mean that I have like an argument which should compel a rational person to say that God exists. I just mean that there are like compelling considerations. And look, I don't really want to go into them now, and I don't have time exactly, but that's not even the point, because all this video is a clip from a podcast in which, by the way, Bear Grylls just like asks me, where has this led you? And I say, like, what, since the beginning of my career? I mean, I think it's more plausible than I did when I was a teenager. That's it. That's not like an extraordinary thing to say. I mean, if
I disagree here. It kind of is. I mean, it is a big shift. It is a big shift to your individual person that when you say something that has been totally unplausible, that you are saying it could be plausible or it is more plausible. This is something big. I mean, you have been a staunch atheist. You have been a person who says, so this is a big shift. I don't know why is he trying to minimize that. I think that he is scared. He does not want to acknowledge. I don't know. It feels like he does not want to. I think he thinks he's being sincere. So when somebody, trying to be sincere and they're trying to trick their own self. They're trying to say that so that they make themselves believe that this is not much. This is not a big deal. This is blah blah. So what? I just believe it's more plausible. So what? I'm just an agnostic. That don't mean that I do believe in a theology. But no, this is a big shift, and he's trying to. So yeah, so I believe that without him consciously knowing, he does not think that he is doing that, but he's trying to convince himself as well as the audience that this is not a big deal. But he's wrong, and this is a big deal I mean, not for me, but for him as an individual. And that individual person, this shift of beliefs in this context, it's something of significance.
if you were listening to a Christian who started out when they were 17 on YouTube talking about like why Christianity is definitely true, and someone asked them 10 years later where their exploration of philosophy had led them, and they said something like, I've got to say, like, atheism has a lot more going for it than I thought when I started when I was 17. It posed a much sort of bigger challenge. I think there were lots of interesting considerations, the problem of evil and divine hiddenness. There are really robust philosophical.
It's so funny because maybe some people they have that, but as somebody who has dived deep into spirituality and philosophy and religion, uh, it's very rare, if at all possible, that people who were religious and in 10 years the sort of arguments that would find challenging is the problem of evil. That is, you know, I don't know where to start, but it's way like the theology and the spirituality is so deep that this is just a surface nuisance, like the problem of evil. This sort of problem is something that you would approach with like a teenager, like world is all suffering. How can God exist? Well, it could be very easy explained that this life is a test, right? This is one of the explanations that you might sometimes hear, like this life is a test, so nothing in here really matters, and it's sort of given that you will suffer here, but also you will experience some good things. Now, this is just on the surface. I could even go deeper, which is that you see, you cannot have an up without a down. You cannot have back without a front. So, let's say, you came outside. You came from outside, from a cold weather. Right now, on the weather outside, I have it actually, it's pretty cold. So if I came from the outside, from the cold weather, and then I enter into my home, and I find it warm, and I find this a pleasure in warmth. You see, if you did not feel cold, you can never feel warm, right? If you have never felt hunger, then you would not feel the pleasure of eating food. If you have never been lonely, then you would not rejoice when you're meeting with your friends or family. So what I'm trying to say here is that the problem of bad is that it goes with the good in this reality. You cannot have something that is only good, because if there is no good, if something is only good, then how can it exist? Because it has to contrast with some bad. If everything is already good, then that word would not exist, and just nothing would exist. Things have to come in but it's like a magnet having a south pole and a north pole. So yeah, so for the problem of evil specifically, it's because simply you cannot have a world without evil. If it has good, then it has to have evil, because this is because good and evil, they define each other. So something that is good would be the opposite of being evil, and evil is the opposite of being good. The same way that up is the opposite of being down. You cannot have a reality where it's all down or all up. It just doesn't, it does not work in this existence. This is not how this existence is. All right, I'm just going too much about it, so let's just get back to it.
Versions of this, they might say, as someone who's a Christian, I've realized that atheism is much more plausible than I thought when I was a teenager. And similarly, it shouldn't be that surprising to hear an atheist who has for the past 10 years dedicated his life to studying philosophy and theology say that, yeah, there are some pretty good arguments on the other side. And speaking of,
again, with all of the minimizing,
not knowing what sources of information to trust and doing things for money, you'll also know, if you've watched this channel for a while now, that for some time I've been recommending a way to deal with bias in the online space. We can never get rid of bias, of course, but wouldn't it be great if there were a way for us as consumers of online media to navigate this space, objectively comparing the way that different news sources are reporting on the same story? Bias, shall we? The thing that really annoys me is that there are like two kinds of responses to this video that I've been getting that I don't like. One is from the Christian community who say, aha, I knew it. He's on the verge of conversion. He's definitely about to become a Christian, and we're just waiting for Jesus to fully open his eyes, or something like that. The second is from atheist listeners who think that I've essentially lost my mind. And that also tends to come along with this idea that I'm grifting.
I just want to say so that, he does not like these two reactions. But a sane person, a person who is wise, a person who is mentally in a right place, would see these two people as a reflection of what is happening to them. You see, you got the people who are with you saying that you're going crazy, and the people who are against you are saying that you're about to join them. Maybe, just maybe, that your outward look, maybe that the way that, maybe you're not seeing it, but it is more plausible that all of these people are correct and you're wrong than for you to be the correct one, all of them are wrong. So I think that he should be doing more self-reflecting rather than trying to scold us as the viewers.
Right, that I'm kind of trying to cotton onto a trend and, I don't know, make more money off, like, pretending to be nearly...
I mean, we don't know him personally. How do we know he's not grifting? So, the fact that he's hurt by that, and he should have a tougher skin than this. He's a YouTuber. He's somebody who, I don't know personally. How do I know that you're not in it for some of the money? Maybe not necessarily that you're in it for the money, but maybe you need the money now. Maybe you're trying to gather money to get married or to be engaged or something, and you just need that a little bit more, and so you needed to just grift a little bit here in order to get your, who knows, and you're an atheist, so you don't have a solid sort of morality like how in atheology is. So why wouldn't you be a grifter?
A Christian or something? Alex sees that there is a massive fascistic turn happening and is now becoming Christian to save his own skin.
I don't think that.
Cowardly. What a fraud. Just fast forward to your inevitable coming to Jesus moment and stop wasting people's time.
Now, just to say, this comment is really aggressive, jerk. This is a very jerky art. I would never want to speak like this. This person is not a follower of Jesus. If you speak like that, you're not a person who is compassionate, and you most likely do not represent your faith or theology.
You can pivot your channel's content to atheist converts to Christianity and realizes how wrong he was all along. The Bible thumpers will eat it up. Sad to see stupidity prevail over logic and intelligence.
It's so funny, like atheist people are always about IQ and higher IQ. And I actually want to make a video after this about how higher IQ is more likely than not a disability.
Sad atheist grift failed. Time to jump on the megachurch conversion Christian tour. It's sad and pathetic to watch someone who was once respectable.
These atheists are ruthless. I mean, I gotta say, I thought that the Christians were bad, but the atheists are, it's they just need to be more moral. Ironically, I just gotta say, because they always speak, oh, you don't need a religion to be moral, but as you can see, they're pretty hurtful in their words. They don't seem to have much compassion. It seems like when push comes to shove, your morality goes out of the window.
Turn into a complete grifter. So, how much did the lobby pay you? Alex is
Lobby pay
quasi-famous
you.
now, and he can't afford a haircut that doesn't look like a small dead animal on his head. Actually, that one's fair enough. Oh dear,
kinda
now
funny.
old Alex has fallen too. Only Dawkins left. I'm sorry, but fallen from what? Like fallen from the kind of steadfast atheism
I used to play chess, and so this gave me a very funny image. Like, like it's like a chessboard, and like Alex is like the bishop or the knight or something. And so, like all the chess pieces have fallen. We only have the queen left, which is Dawkins.
which says that there is literally no such thing as a plausible argument for religion or Christianity. That there's not like one marginally good reason to think that religion or Christianity might be true. If that's your position, we're just not on the same page. But that is not the same thing as becoming a Christian or being on the verge of doing so.
I feel like his higher IQ, his ego is really preventing him from seeing. You see, it's sort of like if I'm going to the store and somebody is like, "Well, you're going to be at the store." And I'm like, "No, I'm not at the store yet. I took a position that is closer to the store. I'm not intentionally going to the store, and I might not be, but the fact that I'm being moved by my hunger, by my curiosity, I'm keeping moving in a way physically that is getting me closer and closer to the store. I'm not at the store yet, but when somebody says, it seems like the end of this is you being at the store, and you're just like, what are you talking about? This is basically what he's doing here. It's really funny to see. I think that it's the ego that sort of blinds him and makes him think about, he makes him think about himself what he's not. So he doesn't even know himself well. So he's just ignorant about his own self, it seems like, because it's very clear. Like when I don't want to go back at this, so let's just keep going.
And to prove it, I just want to show you something. So this video was taken from my second YouTube channel, More Alex O'Connor, and I just want to show you some other YouTube video titles from that self-same YouTube channel, debating why the Bible isn't true versus Dinesh D'Souza. Was Jesus the serpent in the Garden of Eden? Pressing Ben Shapiro on contradictions in Scripture. Why contradictions in the Bible matter. And across my content, I've got videos explaining why I think Jesus didn't claim to be God.
Where Jesus is specifically asked to clarify his relationship to the Father and tells us that he is only in relationship with him in such a way that everybody else can be in relationship with them too.
Why the problem of evil is the biggest problem for Christianity.
I don't think I'd expect to see anything like.
I just want to say, so by him saying that, that Jesus did not, I mean, I don't know if he knows or not, but I'm guessing that he knows that there are denominations, there are faiths, whether in Islam or in Christianity, that do believe exactly that. So, and probably be more in line with how he views reality. So these things does not prove that he is immune to becoming a person who follows a theology.
This circus of suffering.
How the Bible obviously contains falsehoods and mythologies and often contradicts itself. Every contradiction? All of them? How about, for instance, how I think the Bible promotes sexism. If there is something they want to learn, let them ask their husbands at home.
We would need to define sexism. This is one thing that I have never understood, like the definition of of sexism have been moving back and forth so bad. There is no exact definition, in my opinion. The new atheist movement and the liberal movement have failed with feminism so bad that right now the politics is filled with red pill people, and the red pill is just winning and all around, and and all what comes with all of that. So I'm just saying their definitions are wacky of what sexism is, and even sex itself at this point.
For it is shameful for a woman to speak in church. And slavery,
the scriptural injunction
for a woman to speak in church.
Wait, so it is shameful to speak in it's shameful for a woman to speak in church? What? Why is that inherently sexist? Like, so you want to define sexist as to treat the two genders differently, right? So is that what sexism is, as he defines it? Because from his look and from his words, I'm guessing this is what he exactly means. That sexism means that you treat the sexes differently. But well, what if that you would treat them differently, but accordingly? It's sort of like having a fork and a spoon, and you'd be like, well, you have to also use the fork to drink a soup. You would have to equally use the fork and the spoon to drink a soup. This is obviously nonsense. The fact that they're different sexes could have different. So, as an example, you'd be like, okay, but what does that have to do with speaking in a church? You see, women voices is higher pitched, right? Now, higher pitch in churches, especially in the past, could really sometimes travel in a echoey way that could be annoying. You see? So it has nothing to do with the fact that it's a woman and it's like less or anything like that. It's the fact that their voices are literally different. A woman voice is different from a man voice, and that could affect stuff like that. You see, Alex, stuff that would differentiate between the rulings for a man and a woman does not mean that one is more or less than the other.
And slavery,
the scriptural injunctions towards the ownership of other human beings as private property, the bequeathing of them to your children as inheritable property, and the differential treatment of slaves who are Israelites and slaves who are not.
and genocide,
I get sick to death of people hand-waving away this genocide by some vague reference to the fact that Jesus came along to do something which somehow kind of undoes the immorality of it.
And so, in the face of all of that, one clip in which I say, yeah, Christianity has got something going for it, and it's got more going for it than I realized when I was a teenager, causes like this kind of reaction. And I think that some of the responses I've been getting to this demonstrate an incredibly low barrier of intellectual engagement, right? Because
that is true.
If you just saying that the other side, so to speak, is maybe more plausible than some people give it credit for. And actually, there are some good reasons to disagree with my position. I still believe what I believe, but I think there are good reasons that I have to tackle on the other side. Mm-hmm. If just saying that is enough to get accusations that you either must be on the brink of a conversion or you're outwardly grifting to the other side, what does
Again, instead of him scolding us about that, he should, this is not something that is going to change soon, right? So, yes, there is a low intellectual barrier to all of these movements because all sort of people are on here commenting, and most people, not everybody is have a super high IQ or super well read. Most people, they have a hard life and they don't have a lot of time to be like this guy to read about all of these things, right? So he should be acknowledging these things, just acknowledging that this is most people, instead of sort of attacking them, why are you this and that, assuming about me? They're always gonna be like that. You're not gonna change that.
What does that say about the state of our ability online to have conversations about important topics? I think that the starting point of an interesting conversation should be, I think that what you're saying is really interesting and plausible, but I disagree with it, and I'm going to tell you why. If our starting point is just, there is nothing you could possibly say that will rationally convince me, because your position is rationally indefensible.
AW, see, this is why I love Love this guy. I don't agree with him on theology, obviously. I'm not an atheist. I'm against atheism. But I love his sincerity. I love the fact that he comes with an attitude to learn something, which I do as well.
Not only that, but it's also evil and a terrible force in the world. And right now, I just don't think there is anything you could possibly say to me at all to convince me that your worldview is even more plausible than its fiercest enemies propose. If that's where you're at, then, like, fair enough. You can hold that view. I can understand looking at religions like Christianity, or for a Christian looking at atheism and just thinking, like, that is nonsense and there is no way I can even take that seriously. Fine, you can do that, but that's not what I'm engaged in. Like, I'm trying to have interesting conversations with people because I think that most people have something interesting to say. But I also kind of can't blame people for thinking that I am jumping on some Christian grift, because Christians keep repurposing my material for their, like, you know, hopeful worship music in the background, Instagram reels,
It's so funny.
talking about how, like, great Jesus is. Sometimes when I'm asked about Christianity or religion on, like, a podcast or something, my co-conversationalist doesn't know that much about Christianity, or is interested but hasn't really.
Okay, I'm sort of tired now, so let's just make this part 1 and let's try to make a part 2 later. If you enjoy this, then comment that you want a part 2. But yeah, this has been really interesting. I wish that one day I could talk with Alex in person. I truly hold him dear to me because, I do so much align with him on the basis of being a sincere inquirer. And I love people like him. And I don't like people who are religious, who trying to shove their points of view down people's throats, being manipulative. I think that this is a controversial thing that I'm about to say here. I think that he is more religious than most of these Christians who made videos about him to claim that he's becoming a Christian, and they're saying all of these things. He is a good person in my book, and in my faith, I don't think he is going to hell. So with this one, I'll stop it right here, and hopefully later we might get back to it. If you like it, don't forget to make a comment, say I want a part 2 so I know. So stay strong and don't budge.